Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Odyssey. So I'm back with another video, and this time it's a highly requested, much anticipated video, a comparison between the BlackBerry Passport and the Unihertz Titan. And by highly requested, I mean there's been like a lot of people. I mean seriously, like 8 or 9. There's people. So if you were one of those people, then here we are, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. We're gonna sit back, take a look at these specs side by side, talk about some of the pros and the cons, and give it a modern look here in 2020. And also, we have the Unihertz Titan, which, interesting phone in itself. So before we get into this, I do want to say if this is your first time stopping by the channel, I appreciate you being here. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can get updates when the latest videos come out. Now, let's take a look at these two phones. All right, so here we are first with the BlackBerry Passport. Now, the BlackBerry Passport is an iconic device. It was very revolutionary, very ingenious at the time that it was made. It had, of course, its supporters, and it had also people that really didn't care for it because, of course, we have this gigantic 1-to-1 aspect ratio screen on the phone that is essentially the same size as an actual Passport. So it was very groundbreaking at the time, and it looked a whole lot different than the traditional BlackBerry Q10 and other BlackBerry devices that had preceded it. So most people that got the phone, though, actually really enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of this phone. I loved it. I had the black one originally, then I got the white one, then I also got the SE edition that we have here. So super cool. It has a 3,450 milliamp battery inside of it, which it's pretty big, especially for back in 2014. And that was one of the chief complaints that most people had about phones back then, was the batteries just weren't big enough. Well, one of the other things that was handcuffing the BlackBerry phones was they had underpowered processors. They were great for normal things like core communications tasks and functions, but when it came to limited social media and the games and overall performance outside of just the normal operating system, it was a little on the underpowered side with the 1.5 megahertz dual-core processor they use in the Z10 and the Q10. So we got the upgraded 2.3 gigahertz quad-core processor in here. So a lot more power, a lot more bang for the buck. Upgraded to 3 gigabytes of RAM instead of 2. We got this 1440 by 1440 resolution on a 4.5-inch LCD screen. So it's not the AMOLED that we had in like the Q10 or the Classic, but it's the same as like in the Z10 and some of the other devices. So we got an LCD here. It's got a 2 megapixel camera on the front. Now that's pretty much consistent across the board with all BlackBerry 10 devices. The Classic has the 2 megapixel, the Z10, the Q10, they all have the same front-facing camera. And that's fine because Blackberries were not really designed to go around taking selfies everywhere. So most people didn't really care about that. What did get upgraded significantly was they put this 13 megapixel camera on the rear, so you could finally take some really good pictures. And I think that's on par with what was expected back in 2014 from flagship phones. Yeah, maybe not so much in the selfie world, but you want to go out and take some photos, and you can do that with this. So I've actually got some photos in here. I took this phone to New York City. We had a family vacation. We went up there, so you're going to see some pictures from there. I took a lot with this. It's got this rubberized back on it with the nice little metal pieces of the BlackBerry logo here. Really, this is probably one of the best looking phones ever made. And it's so much different than nowadays. In 2020, everything's just a flat slab. They all look the same. There's not so much when it comes to brand identity anymore other than just like a notch. I mean, you look at like Face ID on the iPhone and that big notch is cut out. So really was a lot of originality. It took a lot to go on a limb to make this, but overall, the core functions still work great. Anything that's in the BlackBerry store works like a champ. You can get stuff in the Amazon App Store, you can sideload apps, you can download and directly run Android apps because it has an Android 4.3 runtime on it. So I've downloaded things like Alto's Odyssey. I've also got Spotify on here, which you can pick up in the Amazon store, which is still in here and it still works. So there's still a lot that you can get out of this. And of course, you've got the wonderful keyboard, which has the amazing typing experience. Now, if you're a hardcore core BlackBerry user and you like having that 4-row keyboard, I'm right there with you, and I appreciate having the Alt and the Shift and the numbers and the symbols. This right here is nice. It works great. You've got the touch-sensitive features where you can slide back and forth as far as the operating system goes, and the Unihertz Titan does that too. So you can do all this cool stuff. It's got the downward firing speaker on it. It's actually got some pretty decent volume, micro USB connector on the bottom, And then you've got the volume rockers over here on the side, power button on the top, which was typical of BlackBerry 10 devices. But still, even though the battery is a little compromised on this one because it's used, it's, you know, basically almost 6 years old now. It's not quite up there where it used to be, but back when it came out, and if you've got a relatively new one or the battery's in good condition, it'll still get you through a day, which back in 2014 was a huge task. So that's it so far for the BlackBerry Passport. All right, so enter stage right, and we have the Unihertz Titan. So this phone was actually a Kickstarter project. It started in 2019 last year. I didn't get in at the ground roots level. I ended up buying this once they finally went into production. The way they did it with this is they make them in batches of like 600. Don't quote me on the number, but basically they'll do a limited run, they sell those off, and then they make more. So there may be a delay in getting one if they don't have any that are available. So I ordered mine, they had some left. It took about 6 days to show up, and it's really an interesting phone. I did my full review on this already. You can check out the full review, link down below, and I've enjoyed it. It's been a very kind of like trip down memory lane because it has this keyboard that's very much like the Passport keyboard. It's got the same, well, not the same, but same dimensions, 4.5-inch IPS LCD on here at 1440 by 1440 resolution, 1:1 aspect ratio, so it's basically a square. You don't get the long elongated 16:9 aspect ratio you do with a traditional phone like this OnePlus 8 right here. You have a square. Now this one also has a very large battery. So instead of 3450, it's a little bit more up to date with the times. Here we are in 2020. It has a 6,000 milliamp battery. You basically can't kill this thing in a day. It's crazy. But battery life is phenomenal, especially it's got the MediaTek Helio P60 processor in it, which is fairly power efficient. It's a good workhorse processor, nothing that's gonna be too insanely expensive, but it's reliable. It was in a lot of phones in 2019. I've reviewed 2 phones that had it. So this one actually has USB-C on the bottom, IP67 dust and water resistance. So imagine being able to throw this in the water and leaving it there for up to 30 minutes and up to 1 meter of water. It's pretty phenomenal. Now the speaker on here is actually a single firing speaker on the back. It's not as good as the BlackBerry Passport, but I mean, for being basically a rugged phone with the keyboard, it's not bad, but it's nothing to write home about. It has the touch sensitive keyboard on here. It's got 6 gigabytes of RAM, which is perfectly good in 2020 to run Android 9. They have promised it's going to get Android 10. There's been no release date on that yet. Now, it has a 8 megapixel front-facing selfie camera, which is much more improved over the Passport. On the back, we've got a 16 megapixel camera. So it's got this rubberized housing on it. It's built like a tank, and BlackBerries have always been built like tanks. This is kind of like a generational upgrade with some armor. It's like Barney Fife met RoboCop. Not really a BlackBerry's Barney Fife, but it's just, you take something that would normally be frail, which is a smartphone, and you put it in a body like this. It's just kind of ridiculous. But hey, it works. And as you saw, I mean, I threw it out in the water. If you look at the review itself, I put this in a blender full of water for like 15 minutes while I was taking pictures to get the thumbnail for it. So I've tested it with my own phone. It works. Yeah, so 6,000 milliamp battery, 6 gigabytes of RAM, all the bells and whistles for $350, which is actually a really good deal. The keyboard is a little non-traditional, but it is an upgrade over certain elements of the Passport keyboard. So the Passport keyboard, I'll show you right here up close and personal. It doesn't have any numbers or symbols or shift keys or any of that stuff. And then you get the Unihertz Titan, and you can look into the letters there and see that they have symbols, they have numbers, and there's an Alt and a Shift key, and there's actually a physical home button, back button, all that good stuff. Those are tremendous differences, but this one was designed and built from the ground up for Android. This one was designed and built for the ground up for BlackBerry 10. And what's funny is BlackBerry 10 is like the author in the modern world when it comes to swipe gestures in the OS. It was swipe up to get to the home screen, swipe up and over, which is the peek feature, to get to the hub, all that good stuff. Well, Android 10, ironically enough, is entering that world of swipe back, swipe forward, swipe up, all those cool things. Not quite here in Android 9 yet, limited swipe functionality, but it's funny how we've come full circle so many years later, and the Unihertz Titan, if it gets Android 10, will be very, very much like the BlackBerry Passport. And then on top of that, if you want, you can get the BlackBerry app suite for Android on here. You can put the BlackBerry launcher, you can put the BlackBerry hub. You can make this as BlackBerry as you want, It's very on par with the other BlackBerry devices, but it's a Unihertz Titan. Now, one significant concern that I have with the Titan is, of course, the security of the operating system. I talked about this in my full review. It has a 2019 security update. It's been a while. Whereas BlackBerry 10, of course, it was at one point in time the most secure in the world. I don't know how secure it is now, but I don't think there's a lot of people trying to hack it. But still, that's a question mark for both of these now, because they don't really have recent relevant security updates, which is important. But from a core operations and functionings task, you can still get a lot done on here. It has, I think, a better keyboard, the tactile feedback, the responsiveness. Overall, I think the keyboard's built better on here. I enjoy typing on here more. But moving forward, if you want something that's going to give you the same luxuries of this full swipe gesture keyboard and all that greatness, but also includes the symbols and the numbers, the Alt and the Shift key, once you get used to the placement on them, which, yeah, maybe after a couple of weeks, you should be typing like a champ on this, maybe shorter than that if you just really use it all the time, I think that you can enjoy this. But of course, it's very big and bulky. I mean, we thought this was big and bulky at the time, but this one right here, definitely don't drop it on your face while you're laying in bed. It's very difficult to use and hold up while you're laying in bed at night, which I unfortunately do entirely too much on my phone. But this one is a little bit lighter. This one definitely feels more premium. You can see it's more sleek, more svelte. I mean, it's a nice looking phone. I mean, I really am enjoy carrying this one. I like using this one. You get a lot of questions about it in public, but you get questions about both of these in public. This one, because of course it looks very much like a BlackBerry and it's very sharp looking. And this one, because it's an absolute behemoth. I mean, it is a beast of a phone. So yeah, that's pretty much it as far as both of these phones go. If you're looking to switch over from the Passport to the Titan, it's very doable. I've used both of them. I've been using BlackBerry since the year 2005. So you've seen all my videos out there. I love BlackBerry. I went ahead and I spent my money on this. This was not sent out as a review unit. So I can say that legitimately it's a decent phone. It works well. It does what you want it to do. And if you're coming over from this is going to seem super fast. And as soon as you get used to the keyboard, I think you're going to enjoy it. Now, some things I wish were a little bit better. I wish the screen quality was a little bit higher. You can tell that it's not an expensive, high contrast, very well saturated LCD screen, but it gets the job done. And if you're coming over from a 16 by 9 aspect ratio screen, a traditional slab, the only thing that's going to throw you off is you're going to lose out on the extra viewing space, and it's going to be fit into this 1-to-1 form factor. But that's what you get over here too, and this is what we're talking about. So both of them all-day battery, both of them great communications tools and devices. This one is like the rugged version. This one's like if you had like the same phone and you put one in like a tuxedo and you put the other one in like a work outfit, this is kind of what you get. It's like a tale of two cities basically. But overall, this right here, unfortunately, if the operating system were ever updated or if they ever refreshed and made a new one of these with an updated processor and stuff, I would be very comfortable carrying it for a long time. If you can find a browser that works, I've tried out the Opera browser. It's okay, the one that's built in. It has some issues now, but by and large, text, email, you can use Spotify, you can use WhatsApp on here, you can use the Twitter Lite, Facebook Lite. There's still a lot of ways that you can still use this in a meaningful way, especially if you want a no-frills phone. You don't want something you're constantly tied into with social media and all the other stuff going on. It's a solid device, even in 2020. Now, here you get the modern operating system, the cool software stuff, social media. You've got access to everything on here. You're not missing out on anything other than just, maybe some modern security stuff, but definitely worth $350. If you can find one of these in good shape for less than $200, I mean, look at a regular Passport, the black one, the white one. If you want an SE, very hard to find, much more expensive. But if you're interested in it and you like BlackBerry 10, I mean, it's a really nice device and it's the most powerful out of all of them. So that's pretty much all I've got on my comparison video between the BlackBerry Passport and the Unihertz Titan. Like I said, enjoy them both. Very similar in so many ways, but also very different. And one, of course, is more modern versus the other one, which is still running BlackBerry 10. But that's all I've got. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully those of you who asked for this got the answers you wanted and were happy to see them side by side. That's why I made this. I like both of these phones, and I think it was important to put them together so you could get a look. So that's all I've got. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section. I'll get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can get updates on the latest videos. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you guys next time.